Welcome to the People's Podcast, an employer's resource by Group Management Services. I'm your host, Alyse Kimble.
This podcast does not constitute legal or financial advice. Its accuracy, completeness, or adequacy is not guaranteed. Use the information at your own risk. Consult an attorney or financial advisor before taking any action.
Hello and welcome back to the People's Podcast. My name is Alyse Kimble. I'm the Training Development Manager here at GMS. This is episode 11 and I'm sitting here with Stacy Vadnal. Stacy Vadnal is our Director of Ohio Workers' Compensation Underwriting and Compliance. Welcome, Stacy.
Thank you.
We're so glad you're here.
Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. So this is going to be really kind of a high-level overview. We might get a little bit into the weeds in some areas, but I do want to talk about specifically Ohio's workers' compensation with you, since it is a monopolistic state, and it's a little bit different than probably a lot of the other states. There's really like, four in the U.S. That are monopolistic states, which we'll get into that a little bit later. But for those of you guys joining us today, this is specifically going to be over our Ohio workers' compensation. So Stacy, just from a high-level overview, let's start there.
Okay.
What is workers' compensation coverage?
Workers' compensation insurance protects the employer and the employees by providing financial assistance and medical care to employees who are injured on the job. It actually reduced the risk of lawsuits and liabilities for the employer, and most employers don't realize that. If one of your employees are injured and you don't have proper workers' compensation coverage in place, the Ohio BWC will cover the cost of any medical and compensation, but then the employer will be responsible to reimburse the Bureau for every cent of that claim for the life of the claim, and the employer can actually be charged penalties and criminal charges.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
That's a lot.
It is serious.
Yes, very serious. So does every employer have to have workers' compensation coverage in Ohio?
Yes. In Ohio, if you have an employee, one or more, you have to have workers' compensation coverage in place.
Wow. Okay. So, and I think that varies by state, right? But
Yes,
Ohio
it does.
requires pretty much every employer to have workers' compensation coverage.
Right.
Interesting. Love that. How do you secure, so if you're a business owner and you're like, maybe it's just you, and now you're hiring an employee.
Yes.
This is usually what happens.
Right.
Now at this point, you have to get workers' compensation coverage for
Yes.
that employee. What does that process look like?
It's actually quite simple. Employers can apply right through the Ohio BWC website. Takes about 10 minutes, costs $120.
Okay.
You just need some basic information about your employees, how many, what their responsibilities will be, your location, and things like that.
Okay, perfect. And the BWC, can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure.
Yes.
So as you mentioned earlier, Ohio's a monopolistic state for workers' compensation, which means it's administered through the state fund. And the organization that's in control of that is the Ohio BWC.
Perfect. So what I'm hearing from that is if you're an employer in Ohio and you have more than one employee, you have to have workers' compensation coverage. And really the only place you're going to get it from in Ohio is the BWC.
That's correct.
Are there any other options?
The other options are if the employer is large enough, such
Okay.
as like a school or a hospital, they can actually apply to be self-insured.
Okay.
However, they have to apply through the BWC, right?
Yes.
Or they can partner with a self-insured PEO, like GMS.
Nice. Okay, so there are some other options
are.
other than the BWC. Monopolistic markets are never good for the little guy.
No.
No, absolutely not. So that's good to have other options.
Yes.
So let's talk about self-insurance. What does that even mean?
Okay. So self-insurance is when the employer assumes the financial responsibility for the workers' compensation insurance and pays for the medical claims and compensation out of pocket.
Gotcha. Okay. So we are a self-insured PEO at GMS.
We are.
What did that process look like for us?
Well, we had to apply to be self-insured, obviously through the state. It took many, many years. You have to have a very good financial record and lots of applications. But we were granted self-insurance in 2014.
Wow.
Yeah, so we just passed our 10 years.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. But a self-insured PEO allows the employer to participate in our self-insured program. We provide the underwriting of the workers' compensation. We manage the claims, we pay the compensation, and we provide other risk management services.
Wow. So it's like a one-stop shop.
It is, absolutely.
That's amazing. So what would be the benefits of a employer to partner with a self-insured PEO like GMS? What would they get out of that relationship?
Oh, a ton. As far as workers' compensation is concerned, because we're self-insured, we manage our claims in-house.
Okay.
Right. So their GMS claims, we're extremely aggressive. We have return to work programs, which helps us get our employees or injured workers back to work quicker, and then reduces the employer's claim costs and ultimately their premiums.
Awesome. And I know safety programs are a huge part of that. Is there any sort of like incentive for them to be a safe partner with GMS?
Oh, absolutely. And we actually, our safety team meets with every single new client when they are onboarded, just to see what we can do to help them. We offer safety trainings and programs to help stop those injuries before they even occur.
Yeah, absolutely. Good partners, right?
Yes.
Good partners get good renewals. That's what our owner always says. So let's talk a little bit about what would be maybe a employer that we wouldn't be able to partner with. Because I know that for our policy, we're self-insured, right?
Right.
We want to make sure that our policy is pretty clean so that we could give good renewals every year. Is there anybody that we wouldn't partner with, maybe from a workers' comp standpoint?
Yes. Asbestos,
Okay.
1,000%. We unfortunately do not underwrite that under Ohio workers' comp for our self-insured program. And that's just because the potential of cancer, is something that
Yeah.
an employee or injured worker can deal with for their entire life, the potential of that happening. And then also tree pruning. We're very cautious of tree pruning. We will write that. There are some stipulations. The employer has to have at least 100,000 of reported wages to that classification. And the reason we do that is because in that industry, often we see, because tree pruning is such a high manual classification rate, that employers will allocate wages to the wrong code to pay at a lower rate.
Oh,
so their historical wages are under, landscaping, and then they have 5 claims under, tree pruning.
Okay.
So if they partner with GMS and they weren't allocating their wages properly, we wouldn't be collecting enough premiums to offset their losses.
Yeah. I think inversely too, sometimes what we'll discover is when we are quoting workers' compensation for an employer, we're finding that sometimes their broker, whoever it is, out of state, but also in BWC land, they're not putting the correct codes in, and it's kind of hurting their.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's hurting their renewals. It's hurting what they're paying for workers' compensation. Are you seeing that often?
Yes,
as well?
and actually, that's also a benefit of partnering with us, is because once the employer is onboarded, we will review their classifications based on their industries. Their account manager will work with them on job descriptions, and we will make sure that their employees are classified correctly.
Yeah.
Because it can hurt them. Each classification has, a base rate, and some of them are higher and some of them are lower. So we want to be sure that, they have what they need and they're paying what they should.
Why is the BWC not doing that?
They do,
Okay.
but it's, it's very basic, I guess. When the employer applies online for their application, I think initially the system reviews it.
Okay.
And if it seems to be simple, the system will assign classifications. If it's a little more complex, they'll actually assign it to a representative. And then also too, sometimes things change, right? You expand your business, you offer more services, you hire new employees, and maybe you forget to contact the BWC to have something added. But we can definitely do that for them.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's such a just wonderful thing to offload as a business owner, to be like, I don't know, I don't really know how to do this. Can you help me with this? So I think that having a partner like GMS would be really helpful there.
Yes.
For sure. When it comes to, you were talking about claims, right? When it comes to claims, how does GMS's workers' compensation kind of handle claims in Ohio? What does that look like?
So we encourage our clients to report claims to us within the first 24 hours.
Okay.
Right? Because it's important that we can get on it, contact the injured worker, the medical facility, start our management. And then once we get our information, we contact our safety team. So they actually take a look at the claim too to see, okay, is this something that we should probably go out and visit for? Is it something based on the mechanism of injury, could we go out there and help them maybe see what's going on and offer some suggestions or trainings?
Yeah.
And then we have adjusters in-house, so we just get right to work. We approve all of our claims, we deny it, we pay our compensation. So everything's done here. And like I said, because we're self-insured, it is going to be a GMS claim for life. Even if the employer leaves us, it is our claim.
Ooh, so we have skin in the game.
We have skin in the game, absolutely. So we are extremely aggressive. Right?
Absolutely. I can see that we would want to fight that
Yes.
for sure if we could. Help me understand kind of how an employer, if they had a question regarding a claim, regarding their coverage, regarding whatever, how would they get that question answered? What would that process look like?
So typically our clients will work directly through their account managers.
Okay.
But once they do have a workers' comp claim with GMS, they're going to assign a claims specialist.
Okay.
So they'll have a contact that they're going to work directly with on all of their workers' compensation claims. We also have a policy management team. We all work together. So if they have questions specific to BWC, rates, premiums, all that, they'll be looped in as well.
I love that. So kind of like all-encompassing
All in one,
partnership.
yes, yes.
Where you just have a lot of support, which
Yes.
is wonderful. So once one of our clients signs up with GMS, what happens to their BWC policy?
Good question. So because Ohio is monopolistic, the BWC requires that the employer keep an active BWC policy while they're under the self-insured relationship with GMS.
Okay.
The reason for that is if our relationship terminates, they want to make sure that the employer can transition right back to the state fund without a lapse in workers' comp coverage for their employees,
Wow.
which is great.
Yeah.
So when the relationship starts, the PEO relationship, the BWC puts an installment block on the employer's BWC policy. So it's active, but no premiums will be charged, right?
Gotcha.
So instead, the Bureau is going to charge the employer $120, which is an annual administrative fee just to keep the policy active and open when it's not being used. And GMS will actually take care of making that payment on behalf of all of our clients.
Wow.
So we go ahead and do that automatically, and then we will bill them through their GMS invoice. Any correspondence that they receive from the state, because they will continue to receive that during our relationship, they can send to GMS. GMS will verify if it's actions needed or if, it's something they could just file for their records.
Right.
And then also two employers have an annual true-up report. So GMS will take care of that for all of our self-insured clients.
Wow.
So if the employer started with GMS in the middle of a policy year, they perhaps have prior wages to file. GMS will file those prior wages for them, or they can file themselves. And then if they've been under a self-insured policy for an entire policy year, 0 wages are filed. Again, GMS will do that on their behalf as well.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
So they really don't have to worry about the BWC while they're in relationship with
like
us.
sit it and forget it, right?
Right, absolutely. And then we notify the state also once they terminate. So they don't need to do anything.
Transition right back.
They go right back.
Yeah.
Right.
So easy.
So
easy. I don't know why anybody wouldn't.
I don't either.
Let's, one more question I did want to ask regarding the relationship there. So when it comes to, so we talked about claims, we talked about the BWC. Stacy, you mentioned something there, true ups. What is that?
Okay, so the Ohio BWC has employers on a bi-monthly installment schedule.
Okay.
So their premium that the employer pays bi-monthly is based on an estimated annual wage and their current rates.
Okay.
So at the completion of the policy year, employers have to report what their actual wages were for that period to reconcile, and the Bureau will send them a credit if they've overpaid premiums throughout the policy year, or a bill if it was underpaid.
That's not going to be a fun thing
It's not.
to find at the end of the year, for sure, when you're not
No.
expecting it.
No.
So what you're saying is GMS is really going to pay, or going to charge them exactly what they need to be paying throughout the year.
Yes.
So no need for those.
No need for that.
That goes
GMS
away.
bills premium based on their actual wages
Yep.
each payroll. So there's
Love
no
that.
true up at the end.
Don't have to worry about that.
No.
Love it. Well, this was a wonderful conversation. I feel like I learned so much.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for joining us.
And thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you all for joining us as well. Please come back for our next one. We have some exciting things in store for you. And once again, this is Alyse Kimble with GMS. Thank you so much.
Thank you for tuning into the People's Podcast. We hope you found today's discussion helpful. Stay tuned for more insights in our next episode. For more expert guidance and resources on small business management, PEOs, and more, give our podcast a follow. Find us on social media or visit us at groupmanagement.com. That's groupmgmt.com. We're dedicated to helping small businesses everywhere make their operations simpler, safer, and stronger.